With great power comes great energy bills. These are the wise words of a dying old man that I met on the pavement. I think his name was Ben or something. Anyway, I stole his wallet and came here to do this recording. And Capcom have bestowed upon us a great power. So what will you do with this responsibility? As we take a second weapon out with us on hunts. Let's talk. Hello, welcome. I'm Dunks. You're not, but that's okay, I forgive you. Isn't it wild? We get to take a second weapon out with us on hunts now. So what are you going to do? If you have some particular thought processes, let me know down in the comments below. I love reading the comments. Well, here's my dilapidated reasoning. Maybe it'll help you decide. My main weapon is the lance. The pokey wokey, the thrusty rusty, the shieldy wieldy. Anyway, if you want to know how that weapon works, check out my open beta lance guide. I love the way that the lance turns the game on its head and just says to the monster, no, I'm not going to dodge out of the way, you're going to have to get through me and my shield. I also love that all of the damage is up front, you don't have to do any administration or setup. The core movements are very simple and easy to execute, but there's a lot of nuance in your options. And I think that's all important things to say as we look into what a secondary could be. So what's my secondary going to be? I hear you scream aloud on a public train. Well, let's look at a few different options. Option 1. Just don't use a secondary. And to be honest, this is probably what I'll end up doing most of the time anyway. You can't teach an old Dunks new tricks. It's hard to remember that switching is even an option. Also, I'm not entirely convinced that changing weapons is all that interesting anyway. I mean, use your brain for once in your life and think about it. When you're in the middle of the hunt, are you really thinking, oh, I should change now? When you're in that flow state, like water, are you really thinking, oh, I should switch out to a hammer now? So, to be honest with you, this video would be very short if I stopped it there, but most of the time I probably will just be focused on using one weapon for each given hunt. And then there's a whole question about what gear and setup and armor skills you're going to be using. Spoiler alert, recently a bunch of media outlets got to fly over to Japan and play the game for about 5 hours. There they got to experience the first 5 or 6 hours of the game and experience the armor and weapon crafting systems. Now I'm about to comment on some of their findings, so if you don't want to know about that, then I'll leave a timestamp on the screen and you can head over to it. So I'll give you a countdown and then see you on the other side if you don't want to know about that. Okay? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Cool. They reported that there's a difference between skills that are assigned to your weapon and skills that are assigned to your armor. I mean, did you notice in the open beta that all of the melee weapons had speed sharpening attached to them? What, you didn't? No, because you only think about yourself, don't you? So we don't exactly know how this is all going to pan out. One of them said that they saw hammers with the slugger skill on them. Now, it's a bit odd because ironically a skill like slugger is actually better suited to something like lance or sword and shield that can do a minor amount of KO damage and then get a great benefit from the increase of that. Maybe go from 1 KO to 2 KOs per hunt. Whereas the hammer is more of a KO machine that would expect to get somewhere from 5 or 6 KOs per hunt. But then there are weapons that really do use innate skills. Like they said that they saw lances with the guard and the attack boost skill on them. And what this means is that when you're switching weapons on the fly, some of your necessary weapon specific skills can transfer with you. So it somewhat removes the worry of needing to synergize your skills, say from lance to gun lance. Those would seem like they'd have synergizing skills, but maybe you don't need to worry about that now. To be honest, I would have much sooner this information had to come to us through a developer diary straight from Capcom themselves, rather than from these various media outlets who all say different things and aren't really controlling what's spoilery and what's not. Well, welcome back anybody who needed to skip that earlier bit. Good to see you. I won't bring up what we just talked about in the rest of the video. Right, okay, moving on. Option 2, just bring another lance. And there has to be a specific strategic reason for this one, doesn't there? One reason might be that we have monsters like Namiel and Zinogre that have different elemental weaknesses depending on what phase they're in their fight. So you can switch on the fly and adjust accordingly. And there will almost definitely be some monsters like this. And then the second reason is for multi-monster hunts, like maybe an expedition. You could bring a water lance and a fire lance for different targets. Though, to be honest with you, I'm not massively convinced about the elemental system in Monster Hunter. I plan to make a video on that, so subscribe and then you'll know when that hits. Well, to be honest, maybe some of those don't sound too appealing. And sometimes it feels just great to switch up your playstyle. So let's actually switch weapons now. Option 3, pick whatever you feel like on the day. Yeah, alright, we get it, you're very diverse and inclusive. You're woke liberal leftist with... I'm joking. Nah, to be honest with you, not every weapon really appeals to me. And when I really break it down, there's only a few that I'm actually all that interested in. I mean, just look at my weapon tier list video and you'll know exactly what I think. So how about option 4? Use one of your other main weapons. For me, that would be greatsword and sword and shield. I mean, by definition, this is what people are going to be doing anyway, but I don't know. I just get this feeling that when I go out into a hunt, I want my main to be my main. And then my secondary needs to be a stylistic and feel complement to that. And I would honestly say that the sword and shield isn't actually all of that great of a complement to the lance. The greatsword would definitely be, but again, there's the thing, I would want that to be my focus and my main on that hunt. I don't know, those 3 weapons, they feel like my classic primaries. Anyway, in the open beta, I don't know if you felt this, but the sword and shield felt a little odd. It's just by nature one of those weapons where it's not necessarily easy to intuit what the optimal way of playing is. Very easy to button mash, but quite difficult to work out for yourself what to do optimally. Look, I'm sure I'll still play it a lot anyway. And then the greatsword. You know that one meme of the guy from The Office and he's shaking someone's hand and he's got that look on his face like he's got something he doesn't deserve? That's how I felt when playing the greatsword in the open beta. Just being able to move freely whilst doing a true charge slash. I mean, thanks guys, I don't really feel like I deserve that, but I'll take it. Feels kind of cheap. Right, okay. Let's simplify this. Let's do a little cull of everything that's left. Yay! Cull! One thing that was very clear to me from playing the open beta, confirmed once again that there are certain weapons that still just don't gel with me. Dual blades, hunting horn, the bow guns for example. So we can eliminate those right away. You just kind of know sometimes when you play a weapon and you have somewhat of a reasonable understanding of how it works, you just can't seem to get into it. And sadly the bow still isn't it. I love the aesthetic of the bow, I just can't get into the playstyle. I always feel like I'm running out of stamina and I'm not sure whether I should be charging or doing repeated arrows to build up the charge. And then it's got that new tracker system which feels really tacky and cheap. That's if I could even work out how to use it. And the charge blade. The charge blade was quite high up on my list of potential secondaries. I mean, I've used it quite a bit in the past, so I should have a good idea of what to do. Right? Now, I said that the lance has no setup required for it. Complete converse to that is the fact that the charge blade has the most setup to it. So I guess there's a bit of a compliment in playstyle there. But there's the issue. Because the charge blade just has so much setup to it. And because of that, there's so many different button combinations to try and remember. I could remember how to get the files and the energy built up and then charge that into your files, and then how to get that into your shield to power up your shield. And then I remembered that you could charge up your sword back in World, and that felt cool because it was like a lightsaber. I kept trying different things and none of them seemed to work, and at one stage I ended up getting these little explosion symbols in the files, like they've been overcharged or something, and I was like, what does that mean? That's new. What Capcom, what does that mean? My overall conclusion, the charge blade just feels way too fiddly now. So many things to set up and so many different button combinations, very cumbersome. Must be a nightmare to do a tutorial on it. Had a similar experience with the insect glaive, couldn't remember which buttons did which. Some were to control the insect, some were to control the ground, some were to control the aerials, and of course aerials are a bit fudgy now, they are changing that by the way. But from what I'd heard from various people talking, the insect glaive just feels like a different weapon now, and so that's probably why I found it so weird. I might try and revisit it when the game comes out, but I'm not really planning to make it as one of my secondaries right now. So, let's cut to the chase and make a shortlist. The shortlist is the longsword, the hammer, the switch axe, and, surprisingly, the gun lance. I say surprisingly because if you saw my weapon videos, you'll see that I wasn't really a big fan of the gun lance or the switch axe. But let's explore why I like these weapons. And chiefly, these 4 weapons all had one thing in common. I could get some work done. I could happily go through a whole hunt without really knowing what I was doing, just trying different buttons and seeing what works. And I could have fun doing that without feeling like I was trying to do spaghetti with my hands or forgetting what combination to do. Now, I'm a veteran to the series, and I've got to be honest, I have played most of these weapons at least a few hunts in the past. So it's not like I don't have any idea what I'm doing, but I don't play them regularly enough to know any optimal playstyles or any hidden tech. But I think it's a great compliment to the way that they've been implemented here in the Wild's open beta, that I can just pick up and play. Now, in all honesty, the longsword probably won't end up being my secondary. The aesthetic just doesn't really gel with me, but I did want to just shout it out just to say, hey, it was fun and I did have a good time. The switch axe and the gun lance come in close joint second here. The switch axe seems like one that could be really fun. I just need to do a bit of investigation into what leads into what. Maybe draw up a little flowchart. Because button mashing gets you so far, but eventually you want to feel empowered to know strategically what you're going to do when. The gun lance synergizes very well with the same sort of defensive skills you'd need for lance, even if the skill distribution is a little bit different now. But overall, it just felt fun and, dare I say, even goofy to play. And it has one thing in common, strangely enough, with the winner on our list, the hammer. What do they have in common? They both love the ledges. Lance mains hate ledges. I won't go into why right now, but they just do. So annoying. Ultimately though, I think I've landed on hammer as being my primary secondary. Ever since World, I've had a bit of a soft spot for the hammer. It's kind of like my 4th choice weapon. It has some very distinct matchup advantages, say for Anjanath. I'd much sooner be hammering an Anjanath rather than lancing it. And while Anjanath isn't by any means confirmed to be returning, if it has in any leaks, please do not spoil that. I do not want to know. But it's more just a testament to the fact that lance and hammer have very different feels to them. Also, I don't think that the hammer is particularly skill dependent, whereas the lance can be sometimes. So I could easily build for the lance and then just switch over to the hammer and not really feel like I'm missing out on much. The hammer in the open beta felt like it'd been simmered down a bit. Did anybody else feel that? Because you don't have like a mode switch anymore, because holding down R2 and pressing circle makes you kind of skip forward a bit and do like a dodge. So yeah, I think that's my answer. Hammer. Hammer's going to be my primary secondary. But hey, I can just play whatever I like. I mean, it's my copy of the game. So yeah, there you go. Again, comment down below, what's your thought process? Do any of those options resonate with you? If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like, a comment, or even subscribing. There's plenty more content to come in the build up to Wilds. And it's not just going to be Monster Hunter content. I've got to get some practice in doing some Let's Plays and some streams. So I'm going to try doing a few games every now and then. Well, have a lovely week whatever you're up to, and I'll catch you on the other side.